Good morning. How are you, Joe? All right. So yesterday, as far as the markets were concerned, it was what we call a frog in a blender day for the most part. Just a lot of running in place, going nowhere, attempts to move up, move down. And you can see on the S&P cash chart, it was just an inside day that went nowhere. And I mentioned yesterday in the green room that maybe this sets up a move to the downside. And it's because we had a range expansion day, a topping tail at resistance, and a break of the low would trigger at least a short term sell setup. Now we've got plenty of this support down below, and we never know until after the fact. We can assume it might be the case, but we really don't know until after the fact that an uptrend is actually going to break. As we look at multiple time frames, certain markets or certain stocks or sectors can be more predictable for that to be the case, depending on how the pattern sets up. This isn't one of them. Since we've got this, retest type of pattern here, the weekly time frame is still in a nice uptrend. You can see the two bottoming tail bars down here. So whether this is, just a short-term pullback type of situation that's going to be viable, or whether it evolves into something larger than that, we don't know yet. So coming up to a top area and putting on a short after a bar like that, anticipating with a wider stop, certainly doable. Had you done that, I didn't. It was paying off this morning, but that's the unknown as to whether that'll happen or not. Our method is one in which, okay, we have a pattern here. You wait for a break of a prior low, and now it's gapping down. As I said, as whether this evolves into something bigger, it's in my opinion, and it's not going to involve. Turn out to work out to be something so big that it's going to violate the trend on the weekly time frame, because our major support is down here. And while this is support, this didn't make a new high. So making a lower high and a lower low, and let's just assume or project that maybe this correction, if it's really going to continue into something larger, was to pull back and break this prior low and come down to 4,000 into this minor area of support and form maybe a pattern like this with bottoming tail bars. That would be a great buying opportunity. We'll just, at this point, we'll just have to see how it unfolds. Should that happen, things are going to look kind of ugly. They always do after a correction. But we'll see, how far this even goes today. Yeah. Seems some, I guess the dollar is up. I see the euro is down here a little bit. Let's take a look. So this is starting to roll over here. And we'll see how far this goes. You can see the little breakout failure here. That was a bit of a warning and a topping tail. So if you were trading euro futures and you see this kind of a pattern, it is one that suggests that this would move down, and in turn, the dollar is going to move up. All right, see where the futures are at here. And actually, they pushed up near the end of the day yesterday. Where is it? This is 24 hours. Going back to yesterday, it tried to punch up here and it came back down one last time, and then, had that little end of day rally. And you can see overnight here. And this is, when we did MT Live yesterday, we covered patterns like this as short-term bottoming patterns. This is only a 5-minute chart. But as we looked at this, I repeated multiple times with different slides. I said it's the same but different. And this is similar to what we looked at, where, this is a momentum move down. There were some little blips. But if you remember yesterday's, and we send out the replay, should be in your inbox, and you look at all of the examples that we showed, you had to move down. It broke down and made a new low. it retraced all the way back up to resistance and it started to go sideways. So again, this is only a 5-minute chart. And from the daily time perspective, this is only the beginning of the move. What we looked at was a majority of daily time frames that had already moved down to areas of support. But the patterns apply universally. Looking, what's to the left, even for an intraday trade, and I can see overlapping bars here. I'm looking at the hourly chart. Now we can see this is in an area of support. So this might bounce a little at the open, but there's the momentum move down. And if it doesn't bounce from here, maybe by 10 o'clock or 10:30 or so, could have another lunchtime move where this continues to the downside. All righty. Qs, similar pattern, weaker. We covered that yesterday. This was struggling here, but going sideways, still staying in the upper part. So as this is the beginning of the day, right, the question will be, do we get a bottoming tail bar here? Right? By the dippers, we can't say that they're not going to show up in force as they have repeatedly. So while we've got a red bar here, we've got a whole day ahead of us. And so we could have this where the open and closes are still up here, and it's got going sideways, looking at the close, day-to-day close. So we'll see. Now, as we look at this one, as we look at different stocks or different markets, we still apply the same thing. So as we look at this one, it's broken through all of this support. So it's much more bearish. And as we look to the left, well, now this is what we do. We drag this down here where there's a significant support level, and we then drag the little red box down here, right, where there's resistance. And that's the simplicity of what we do. This was holding all this time. It violated it. What was support now becomes resistance. This is a bearish break. It's a momentum move. It creates a void above since it came down so hard. It's bottoming out here in the middle of nowhere, probably in alignment with what's happening in the S&P. And now we'll see how much this can bounce or not. And so we'll just monitor this and see if it comes up here. Do we get a short opportunity since the 5 minutes now in a downtrend, where then the question becomes, does it break this low? And that's what we do. It's a trading process. And looking at the weekly chart, this looked really good. And, this little beginning of a red bar for the weekly chart doesn't mean a heck of a lot. Well, it's Thursday. We'll see where it looks Friday. Now, if this continues lower, and this is down at the bottom of this green bar tomorrow at 4 o'clock, that's going to have implications of a measured move lower. If it's hanging up here, it's a bottoming tail bar. We go into next week thinking if it takes out the high, back up again, bar by bar. And the Russell, right? It's pretty much reached its destination. So I like these red boxes or just areas that I've colored them red. They become more powerful as resistance when they're red versus yellow. Kidding. But anyway, it's an area. So it's just come up here, and now we're getting this reversal here, which you can see. It's hanging on that pivot there. How much do buyers really want to push it back up toward that resistance? Does it roll over? Now, the depth of retracement here is bullish, but we've had deep retracements up and down. So it's just been a wild trading range for the Russell here all year long. See if it can hang there. I think this is a continuous contract. There must, I think, a change in the contracts with this gap, because it doesn't look right when I look at the yield chart. Where's TVT? Oh, down here. Well, it's just hanging down here. We'll see. It's on support, so I'm looking to see if this can pop back up since it's on the support level. and we've got a weekly that's bullish. There was a momentum move. This is the MTS concept of creating support where there's little to none. So there's really no congestion there, but it created a pivot. And now as that pivot gets retested, we look for buyers to show up again. And, they haven't done that in a big way as of yet. It actually got rejected day before yesterday. We'll see if that'll move up. Oil up again, just running up toward that $70 level where I suspect it'll find some sellers. Oh, gold selling off there on the pickup in the dollar. So that makes sense. And where's my UUP? There you go. And you can see the dollar pre-market here popping up there, which is putting some pressure on gold. Silver, same thing. Oh, big red bar. Hate those, on an uptrend like that, because it suggests it's going to go lower, but the trend is up, and it could just create a lot of chopping around. Wood yesterday. Look at that. I don't know if that's real. It's pre-market, but we noticed some other stock, and we looked at this yesterday that, wood, which is, one of the inflation themes, having it increase so much. We've got this head and shoulders top here. And it's interesting that, as this whole Corona debacle is coming to an end, so it seems, all of these things that were kind of counterintuitive, economy shutting down, but meanwhile, the price of wood is going up, and home building stocks are going up, and so on. Or maybe in part it was a supply and demand imbalance where they just weren't bringing it on, and so that was driving, demand was driving it up, what there was, and now things are coming back. And transports. So far, just a trading range. So as we keep an eye on all of this, what we want to see is, if this bearish price action, obviously that's beginning, how do other markets come into alignment with that? And as that unfolds, do we get a bigger correction? Yesterday, we talked about the fact that the internals were lining up, some of them. And so I showed you the different put call ratio. This is the equity put call ratio. And that was touching the lower band. And you can see it actually pushed a little further into it. And breadth is up here. And this is the one that we typically look at that's just touching here. And mentioned that, risk for longs is increasing, and the possibility of accidents happening. And you can call today, like a little fender bender for a start, but we'll see how far this evolves. And these internals give us a guide as to, and they're not pinpoint accurate. So it isn't to suggest that when they reach a level, you're going to see a turn the next day. Sometimes it happens. Most of the time it doesn't, but it does tell us that, as a measure of risk for longs, or opportunities for longs when those times are close. So, all yours, Dan.
Hey, Greg, read what I hear an echo. What McGraw is typing right there. The put call ratio for exchange traded funds fell under 0.7.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Well, if you go to the CBOE, they have different put call ratios for different, like equities, indices, indices and equities, and then they have different sectors and such. So they have one there for exchange traded funds. There's so many things to look at, it just becomes impossible. So, but I guess, if that's something of good information as it relates to something that Doesn't happen too often, and it's a warning. It just lines up with what we're looking at. And over the years, Dan, we've been together for so long. You know the vast amount of information I used to cover related to market internals and what
Yeah,
um,
whole seminar
news
on this.
writers were doing, and how they felt about things, and that was all tracked, and it was so much information that it was kind of overwhelming. And I just narrowed it down to a couple of things, and it works.
Yeah,
It works.
yeah,
So
that was good information, McGraw. Then good statistics, it's good facts. I mean, provided they're accurate, it's something to take note of. And as Greg said, to overlay with our own simplified conclusion, it just gives it another, 10 points, as you hear me saying, when overlay anything else to our methodology, whether it's fundamentals, high short interest, whatever you want to overlay is a plus. All right, let's take, believe it or not, even though we have a ton of longs, I didn't have a single alarm go off on any longs being stopped, even though I've been tightening stops, as you know, a lot yesterday. Disney, we got covered half pre-market. Look at that, Greg. I got us out at the dead low here on half, 175.10. Very nice.
Nice job.
Workhorse pre-market, we sold half. Sandal, I sent out a telegram to sell right at 136, so it's coming right back to the same level. Greg, my stupid charts only start populating pre-market at 8 a.m. Eastern, whereas Greg said it went up to 150. But I know I don't know if I gave it as a core or whatever, but it has core potential on the monthly. But look, we got into this at 85 cents, and let's just ring the cash register, look for a new setup. What else? Low, LOW we're short. My alarm went off there at 190. And Tilray, talking about marijuana, up here again, got an upgrade. Greg said this was 22 bucks pre-market or whenever. But that, need, I think we need, here we go, Greg. This could be a red bar ignored on Michael Jackson sector. Let's watch.
Yes.
Let's watch that 30-minute high, folks. Put that in the window to keep an eye on it. But yeah, that's and then we can go to the usual suspect. Look at Crown. There's a bear sandwich with a monthly buy setup. I like it. That looks fantastic. You know what? I'm just going to post this now. That looks great. Let me do it real quick. Sorry. I'm posting it as a core long. It looks great. Buy yesterday's high, stop, week's low, core long, breakout daily, buy, setup, monthly. Okay, there you have it. All right, looks great. Continuing. Thomas SJM, Piton. 30-minute high. 30-minute high. With the market down, not going to be rushing in the longs, but it's a little downside shakeout. And it's a bullish weekly and monthly also. Piton, it's a buy setup on the daily, but it's a gap down. So I have no idea what to do with that. It's not, to me, it's not good long or short. I don't like shorting into these 50%, retracement into that power bar. It's just not my setup. Um, I saw Bitcoin up today. I saw the mayor of Miami, Greg, your buddy on there. Sorry, he's a crypto supporter. They're apparently having a big conference in Miami on crypto.
I think
But
she's a woman. Miami-Dade mayor.
yeah, Suarez or something. I don't know. All right, so riot here. We have a put spread, but let's keep an eye on this for a directional. Oh, I see our ride. We were stocking these EV stocks yesterday. Ride was one here that we got into. So it's relative strength here, pre-market. Anything gapping up in the Dow market. Of the Dow 30, I don't see a single green pre-market print. Well, net change positive. Old space, you know, I was watching, this gap down here. I posted it as a core long watch, and look at that. Uh, to me at the time, the gap was too big. But now when it rips another $12, the gap doesn't look so big, does it? I don't know, woulda, coulda. All right, there's our little sandal. We got to watch that on the pullback. Workhorse we talked about, another relative strength. And I moved stop to 30-minute low on that. Said G, kind of a sell setup breakdown. Let's keep an eye on this McGraw for a call spread. Splunk, I think, had earnings, a bearish gap, 30-minute low, call spread also. Smart gapping up. Remember yesterday, MT Live was on price void. So this is a bullish gap breakout. But, I'm not crazy about the void. Look to the left. You got a wall of stuff there at 64, but we'll come back to it. Sure, Ben. NTAP, earnings, gapping down. It's just in a big trading range. I don't know. I'm not crazy about NTAP. John, Zoom call spread. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. I would only trust that if it were tomorrow. And we looked at it yesterday and the juice wasn't really that high. We were looking at 340, 345. I think it was like 45 cents was all. But, it's going sideways here with the 20 and 50 flattening out. So I think we can find weaker stuff. GWRE at earnings, I can't tell where you're gapping. This one will be a very nice gap trade. If it is gapping up here, I only see one or two little dots, so I don't trust it. I put it in the bottom right here. Bottom right, we'll see. But if it is opening at 65, this is the price void. So this is what we talked about yesterday. So this one has room to run, I don't know, 68, 70, I don't know. So that's a good gapper. So I'm gapping down to 20 bucks way down here. So I got no interest in that. FBYD, there was a big article in the journal today about, all these cyber criminals. They shut down the biggest meat processing plant the other day. And they're going after the article was saying that, they used to go after, remember they went after the retail stores, companies would, they call it big data. And now, I guess, for whatever reason, they're finding it easier to go after hospitals and schools and water plants and other things. But, I know some hedge fund guys think that World War III is not going to be on the battlefield. It's going to be in cyber. It's going to be shutting down your economy, and you have no electricity and water and ATM machines and, but we'll talk about that another day. I can't tell where you're gapping, but Remember? We give you all those MT lives are just so incredibly valuable. And the concept that is jumping out at me here was a couple things, a couple MT lives. I got a bullish retest, so the potential bottoming pattern. Now I have greater than 100% retracement from here to here, taking out this pivot and resistance. And now I got a less than 35% pullback. That's where the pattern should set up. And I got a price for it. That was yesterday. And, multiple time frames are fine. I got moving average. I got, volume. So yeah, that looks good. CHDN, let me put that in the window. CHDN. Oh, this is what Thomas asked about the SJM. So it had earnings. Yeah, so McGraw, let's, John Van Tuin, I'm sure you never heard me mention the drop down to you before. So SJM, I like it more now because of earnings. So McGraw, this will be a fantastic put spread candidate over a 15-minute high. We got to go through our checklist, obviously, and we know the spreads are going to be ludicrous at the open. Yeah, FT, no, it's very, very serious problem. But the reason I said that story was because I looked at FEYE, because that's FireEye, and that's exactly what they do. So that's what made me tell that story, and I'm surprised. Well, I don't know why I'm surprised, but
So
hack.
Dan, I'm just thinking, you mentioned FireEye and the cyber thing. I
Yeah.
think was over about a year or so ago. It was a story in the news. Nancy Pelosi's husband made a big investment in that. So who knows? Maybe all these cyber attacks are occurring in some internal assistance.
Just my simple worldly experience, like I think 98% of things can be, boiled down to money or politics or both. I see our Jets here is weak pre-market, but we're in for the long haul, but that's retracing. You got it, Pat. Money or power, politics, sex, greed. Yeah, those are all kind of in the same garbage bin, whatever. All right, this nice wide range engulfing had earnings under yesterday's low, which it's doing right now. So this looks good. It's earnings, so let's wait 10 minutes. But that looks great. Oh, the news was just all over AMC today, and it was crazy pre-market movements. It was up, and then the CEO or whatever comes out with a tweet saying we're going to issue up to 11.5 million shares, and it didn't budge that much, but then it was down $5, then it was break even. I mean, remember we said in the green trading room, what do you think the odds of this going, doubling to 140 by tomorrow? And I think the call options, my recollection was they were like $4.20 for the 140s. Crazy premiums there. Slow. Yeah, but no pattern to me. I mean, you call it a nice gap. I only call a nice gap if it's a nice tradable setup. I just don't call a big gap a nice gap, but that's my terminology. All right, SMTC, bottom right. See, this one I liked substantially better than Clove because of the gap over all these red bars. And the gap's not too big, and it has a price void. So let's watch SMTC, maybe 10-minute high, let it settle down. SJM. It looks fantastic. It's just 932. Earnings stock is the only problem and market iffy, but the pattern looks fantastic.